Hey there, it's Drake. Welcome. You're watching That Big Bearded American Tourist. For new people, thanks for checking me out. And for returning people, as always, thanks for coming back. Today, we're going to be talking about my top 10 travel tips to make sure you have a good vacation. Save yourself a lot of time, energy, effort, money, and most importantly, a lot of anxiety by checking these tips out before you leave. What? What about the flames in my shirt? They make me look like a what? Touristy douchebag. Like 90% of my shirts have flames on them. Why are you saying that? When did flames on shirts not become cool? Who? Guy what? Some guy in a Ferrari? What? Flavor? What town? Fuck. All right. You know, you saw me like literally a minute before I started doing this. You couldn't have said anything then? For fuck's sake. You know, our communication really sucks. Guys, I'm sorry. Give me 1 minute and I'll be right back. Just really? I mean, come on. Yeah? You think it's better? Not so touristy? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to snap. It's just, you know, we're trying to do a show here and I'm trying to build an audience and I need to look professional. I'm sorry. Yeah, I love you too. Wait, what? Sorry. Hey, welcome back. So, fortunately, once again, we have 2 new sponsors. And today, they really do fit the topic because we're talking about traveling, as always, but these guys here really know what they're doing. Our first sponsor, well, let me set the stage for you. You're about to go away on a magical vacation, and you have done everything right. You have prepared, you have spent the money, and you have made arrangements for your dog. You are golden. And you know what? Most importantly, you've done is you've taken care of your health. You have been careful with what you've eaten. You've taken extra vitamins, eaten vitamin C like it was candy. There's no way you're going to get sick before your vacation. Well, don't worry about that. Our next sponsor will make sure to take care of that. It's the obviously sick coworker with boundary issues. That's right. You're at work and next thing you know, fucking Joe's there sneezing in your fucking head. And he's like, oh, don't worry, it's just allergies. It's not allergies. You know it's not allergies. He just feels like shit because he knows you're about to go on vacation and he just sneezed. And now you get to spend from that moment until the time you leave worrying about getting sick. And the funny thing about it is, even if you didn't get sick from that, the worry and stress from thinking, oh shit, I'm going to get sick might make you sick. So there you go, folks. Please think about that obviously sick coworker with boundary issues before you travel on your next trip. Our next sponsor, well, what are you going to take on that trip? You're going to bring some luggage and you are going to go out, maybe buy some fancy new luggage. And what's going to happen? You're going to spend all that money. You're going to get to the airport. And by the time you get to your destination, it's going to be destroyed because you know what? They don't give a fuck there. Your brand new luggage has been destroyed. Don't worry, this next sponsor has thought of all that. That's right. Go ahead and buy yourself some pre-damaged luggage. Pre-damaged luggage. Why would you bother spending all that money on brand new luggage that's just going to get destroyed anyway? Spend a little extra up front. Buy our pre-damaged luggage. Then you don't have to worry about whether it's going to be damaged or not. So pre-damaged luggage, you can get it now. Go to predamagedluggage.com. Use the sponsor code DRAKE, that's DRAKE, for 3% off. That's right, 3% off. And trust me, that's a good savings. And a little disclosure here, I am a 50% owner in the company. So just keep that in mind. But I think it's a good product, or I wouldn't use it myself. So won't you consider pre-damaged luggage before your next trip? All right, we've gotten through the ads. We are ready to roll. Here are Drake's top 10 travel tips for a good vacation. Enjoy. All right, let's get this ball rolling. Drake's top 10 travel tips. All right, what is number 10? Here we go, number 10. This is not a fun one. You're not going to like it, but here it is. Facts are facts. Plan on getting sick. Plan on getting sick. Drake, that's not fun. Well, you know what else isn't fun? Puking and shitting your brains out in a van down by the river. That was awful, and I apologize, but you know what I was going for there. The fact of the matter is, No, you might not get sick, but plan on getting sick. Your body is definitely 100% not used to the food, the spices, and most importantly, the water of where you're going to visit. All right, so first of all, food. Your best course of action to try to not get sick with that is staying away from street food, which is super hard to do, and you're going to want to do it, and I get it. It's cheap, it's fun, and it's easy. So you're taking a chance in street food. Remember, there's no hygiene, there's no restrictions, there's no government intervention. On a lot of these places, it's just a free-for-all. This stuff's been sitting around all day long, and a lot of places like Morocco, they just use their hands. They don't even use freaking gloves. So you might get sick. The really big issue is the water. Now, water is in everything, obviously, but what you might not consider is that not only is it coming out of the tap, not only is it in your ice, it's also in the smoothies, it's in the popsicles, it's in the teas and coffees, and it's even in the sodas in your restaurants that you go to. Why is that? Well, because there's a box of syrup in the back, some carbonation, and a tap thing that goes right to the street line of water. They're mixing it with local water. So you're running a chance of getting sick on the water anywhere you go. Buy tons of bottled water, like a lot of bottled water. You're going to be drinking it anyway because you might be in a place that's hot or whatever. Buy extra. Fortunately, it's super cheap everywhere else around the world that I've been to, except for America. Everywhere you go, bottled water is cheap. So you're buying a lot of it and you put it in your hotel room. First of all, you take a bottle or two or a big one and you stick it in every sink you have. Your kitchen sink, your bathroom sink, and whatever. Why is this? Because that will instantly remind you not to use the tap water to do things like drink and brush your teeth. Don't brush your teeth with the local water. When you see the bottle there, remember that. All right, tip number 2. Do your research and find out common sicknesses and illnesses that are occurring in that country. It might be in the middle of something, or there might be something very common in that place that people get when they visit. So find out what that is. One of the things I did before I started traveling, I think it was about maybe a year ago, I started to get my Hep A vaccine series. It's a series of 3 shots you take over the course of months. And it's supposed to be good for things like eating local fruits and vegetables and dealing with the water. So I did get that, but there are other vaccinations and other things to do based on where you're going to be staying. So you should look into that. All right, last but not least, the tip number 3 in this section here, which is super, super important, is bring your own medicine. That's right, bring your own medicine. Why is this? Because there's a bunch of reasons why. I'll just kind of give you a brief overview. Number 1, all these places, especially touristy places, they know you're going to get sick. So the prices there are going to be outrageous. Especially if you go to resorts, especially if you go to islands, they are going to charge crazy amounts for it. So go to Walmart, go to CVS, get the generic brands. It's all the same. Pack it just in case. Stuff like Imodium is worth its weight in gold when you're traveling. And trust me, you're going to regret it if you don't bring it. And also, who the hell knows when it might hit that you need it. So have it with you versus having to stop what you're doing and go to a pharmacy or something like that and get it. Also, plan on bringing stuff like cold medicine, flu stuff, maybe bring a thermometer, anything you can think of that might help you. Just go down the list of ways you might feel sick. Again, I know this sounds maybe even a little silly or obsessive, but as somebody who's traveled a lot and gotten sick on 3 continents and also had like a cold and a flu when I was in Greece. I did bring this stuff in Greece and I was super, super psyched about it. I did not bring this stuff. I forgot it when I was on my last trip in Asia, and it really sucked when I had to run around looking for the stuff at pharmacies. So take my advice. Plan on getting sick. Bring your medicine. Look into getting vaccines. Be very careful with the food and water, especially the water. And it will help mitigate some of the problems that come along with getting sick on vacation. All right, you guys getting into the swing of things? You ready for number 9? Here it is. Do your research. That's right. Do your research. Look into the countries, the cities, the local places that you're going to visit. Don't just do a surface skim, do a deep dive. It's going to make it much more enjoyable. tourist locations, non-tourist locations. There's some places you do not want to go to non-tourist locations. For example, in Morocco, along the way from tourist stop to tourist stop were these like areas that you did not want to go into. So find out about that stuff before you leave. It's going to be very, very helpful. So you bought your plane ticket, you bought your hotel rooms, and now you're ready to go. What are you going to do when you're there? Well, you may already have a few ideas. You're going to Paris, you're going to see the Eiffel Tower and eat a freaking baguette or whatever the fuck they eat over there. Yum. But what else can you do while you're there? You may already know some stuff, but there's a lot of stuff you just don't know. So here's where research comes in handy. Look into travel sites like Expedia and get your guide. Those places will have lots of different ideas of things you maybe even never thought of to do. They're going to have tons of tours to check out, and even if you don't go on them or book on those sites, you can just go and do those things you might not have even thought about. Obviously, there's tons of travel channels out there, including my own, which gives you some advice on what to see and do. The other nice things about these sites is you can have the opportunity to book a local tour with a local guide. If you just go and you don't do this ahead of time, you don't know what you're going to get yourself into. But the people that work on these sites, so Viator and Expedia and the like, Get Your Guide, well, they hook up with, so they're the conglomerate, and then there's all these group tour places all around the world, and they all link up to those places. So when you book a tour on these sites like Get Your Guide and Expedia, they don't do anything but connect you to those local places. And those local places, most of them anyway, have local guides that have been vetted and are really good at what they do. So you're getting the benefit of knowledge from these people. You're learning about the culture from somebody that lives there, and it is amazing. I've done it a ton of times and I've enjoyed almost every single one of them. Definitely worth checking out. Quick tip on this is make a spreadsheet. You're going to visit all these places. You're going to see all these tours. You're going to take the ones you're interested in, how much they are, the times, and important, where it's leaving from. These tours do not always leave from where you are staying. You're going to have to try to find a place that's close to where you're staying, or make sure you have transportation to that place. If you're staying in a central location, there's a good chance the tour is going to leave near you and you can walk to it. But if you're not, you might have to do a lot of walking or get a cab. So pay attention to all those things. Put it on a spreadsheet. And this is where it gets tricky. The times, you might have multiple times, or you might only have one time. And you are going to try to book, like figure out all the things you want to do. Well, plug that all into your spreadsheet, because some of these tours and the times conflict. Some of the days conflict. Sometimes they're closed on this day and open on this day. But the positive thing is, a lot of times there's many different versions of the exact same tour. For example, food tours. There's always like 5 or 10 or 20 different types of food tours. So pick out the ones that you like the best and put them on the spreadsheet, put all the available times, then book all your other tours, the walking tours, the history tours, museums and castles and all that stuff. Build your spreadsheet out, and eventually you're going to find the right combination of things. Do all that before you start buying your tickets. Otherwise, you're going to have to cancel and rebook. It's just a pain in the neck. So build your spreadsheet, put the work in ahead of time, and it'll make it easier in the long run. Spreadsheets are super important. I will be mentioning probably a bunch in this video. Just do it. All right, travel tip number 8. Do your research into the local laws and customs of the places you're going to visit. This may seem like an obvious one, but it's also easy to forget. While yes, obviously laws are different in every single location you're going to go, every country has their different laws and rules, the customs are also important to observe as well. Sometimes it doesn't matter, it's just like a local thing that has no meaning, but in other places it could be religious and have religious connotations. In a place like Morocco, where it's Islam, it is super important to pay attention to the local customs. When you're visiting a lot of touristy areas, a lot of that stuff is it's not very strict. A lot of things are fine. But in certain places in Morocco, the smaller cities and smaller villages and the mountains and stuff like that, which you may very well go through, it is super strict up there. Women, for example, have to have their hair covered. It is a local custom and even a little bit of a religious rule or law, even foreigners. So you do not want to get the locals angry at you for walking around with your hair down. There may be some tattoo taboos. Maybe shorts aren't allowed. If you're going into temples or visiting places, you're probably not allowed to wear open collared shirts, or women can't show their arms, no shorts. There's all this stuff you have to research ahead of time. All right, the next tip is really important. If you're visiting a place that is either maybe a dictatorship, it is a kingdom, or a communist country, be very careful when it comes to talking about politics. Places like that have kings, like Morocco, you do not want to talk about the king or anything along those lines, because it could be very offensive to them. And in most places like this, it's a very split thing. They might love the king, they might hate the king. You make the wrong comment to the right person, you're going to piss them off. It is very similar to that, like in a lot of places, you're going to find that when it comes to kingdoms. In military dictatorships, or dictatorships in general, you do not want to do for the same thing. You don't want to be like, oh, how do you like living under a dictatorship? Well, more than likely they're not going to like it, but they're also not going to really feel comfortable talking about it. And you could get in trouble for talking about. And communism. I went to Vietnam. It was a communist country, and it was totally fine. But I did notice there was some tension when it came to government stuff. So be very careful with who you're talking to and what you're talking about, especially and at the very least in these three situations. Some countries require travel visas. Not all, but some. Do your research ahead of time and find out. You do have to apply for them. You need to find out your plane ticket information and your hotel information, and have your passport handy, because that is required. You can do it all online. Do not wait to get there, because when you get there, a lot of these places you'll be able to do it at the airport, maybe even at the embassy, but you do not want to wait in line. The last thing you want to do when you get to a country is sit and wait in line for a visa you could have done online, and it would have taken just a few minutes to do. Go to your country that you're looking for on Google, find out, do you require a travel visa? And if it's yes, you're going to go right to that travel visa site. You do not go to those sub-sites that are like, oh, we will get you a travel visa, da 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 da. Fuck them. They're going to charge you a shit ton of money. You can do it yourself. Go directly to the government website for the country you're visiting and get the visa there. Put all your information in. It'll take a couple of days to a week. You got to also get a photo up in there too. So make sure there's a small photo of you available too, and you'll get it. Prices range from anywhere from, like, for example, mine to Vietnam cost like $30, but the one to Cambodia was like $130. Every place is going to be different, but do it ahead of time. Check out the government website for travel advisories. Every country has a travel advisory warning on the websites that you visit for the government, and it goes anywhere, like for the United States, it's 1 through 4. 1 and 2 are like, yeah, it's fine. 3 is like, you might want to reconsider. 4, it's like, yeah, don't go. So find out what number your country you're visiting is. It might surprise you to find out the place that you're visiting might be up at a number 3, and you might not even know because you've not heard anything about it. When I started looking into this, like Morocco, for example, it was like number 3. And then some places like Peru and Ecuador and stuff like that were up in number 3 too. So I was like, oh shit, I can't go to these places, or I should be very careful when I go to these places. Look into it a little bit more, because you'll find that a lot of these are about border skirmishes, like not necessarily in the main locations, but the borders. They're going to advise you not to travel there. So first of all, you're going to go see the different number and say, okay, is it safe, 1 or 2? Should I reconsider 3, or should I definitely not go 4? If it is in those 3 or 4 stages, find out what is going on, why they're advising against it, and make sure you're just not traveling to those areas. But it's very important to do that. It will really make or break your trip. Definitely break it if you find out, like, in the middle of a civil war and you fucking didn't even know. So yeah, check that out. Might be important. All right, Drake's pro tip number 7, hotels and Airbnbs. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to stay? Do you want to go to a hotel? Do you want to go to an Airbnb? There's going to be a lot of factors to take into account. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I'll give you a quick story, an example. When I first went to my very first trip abroad, I went to Rome, and I thought, well, these places are very expensive, but I found a hotel that was like $100 a night, which is reasonable for where I was staying in Rome. And I thought, well, it looks pretty good. And the reviews are pretty good and free breakfast. So bonus. I booked it and it was fucking awful. It was this tiny, tiny, tiny little prison of a room. And it was super uncomfortable. Everything about it was uncomfortable. Tiny, tiny twin beds, no room to move. It was miserable. So later, I really regretted the fact that I chose the hotel because I wanted to be right there in the middle, like close to the location I was told to stay in. However, it turns out like a 10-minute walk away was a beautiful Airbnb with tons of room for the same price that I totally just didn't do because I thought, oh, it's 10 minutes away. I don't want to be that far out. But it really, in the end, it was stupid because number one, it turns out it was near the Trevi Fountain. So I would have been right near where I wanted to be anyway. And number two, man, I really missed out on a beautiful place and stayed in a horrible place because I made that decision. So hotel versus Airbnb is going to be a huge decision to make. And we're going to go over a few things on what to pick. First thing you want to do is go to a travel site like Expedia, whatever your favorite one is. Punch up your location and when you're visiting, and you're going to see a ton of stuff come up. You're going to limit it down to the one, like 5-star, excellent, whatever you want to spend. And it's going to reduce the number and then see what's there. Take a look at those and start to look at the amenities and start to see where they're located and figure out maybe there's a few on that list that you want to do. Take those few and push them over to a spreadsheet. Yes, a spreadsheet, once again. Price, location, name of the hotel, and any amenities and free things like breakfast, Wi-Fi, and stuff like that. Oh yeah, side pro tip, always look for free Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi in general. You do not want to be at a place without Wi-Fi when you're relying on your phone to do everything. So pay attention to that too. Some of these places will have free airport shuttles and, as I mentioned, free breakfast. So those are really nice bonuses, but they're not necessarily going to be like something that makes or break it, because in a lot of these locations, it's very cheap to go from the hotel to the airport and the airport to the hotel. So is it worth potentially being in a hotel that you don't necessarily want to be at for that? No. Even if you have to spend like $50 or $60 for it, you could potentially ruin your vacation by staying in a really bad hotel for that feature. And free breakfast, well, like on the outside, that sounds great because you're saving money and that's cool. Do you really want to be in a hotel eating breakfast every single morning? No, you're going to want to go out and explore and have different stuff and try the local cuisine and stuff like that. So if it's there, it's great. But again, it's just another side benefit you might not ever end up using. Stuff like pools and stuff like that might be great if you're visiting certain locations and it's hot and whatnot. But if you're not planning on going to a pool, why are you bothering paying for that amenity or looking for that? So you can cut like a lot of stuff out. And as I mentioned before, super important, find a location that has a washer and dryer. So again, all that stuff on Expedia, put that all in your spreadsheet, then go to Airbnb. Why do you want to do that? Because not only will you find people renting out their rooms and their houses, but you will also find some of the exact same apartments that were on Expedia, and you can get them directly from the people, in some cases for even less money. When I stayed in Thailand at the Edge Hotel in Pattaya, I found that place on a place like Expedia, and then I went to Airbnb and saw the exact same place, the exact same style room for less money because I was getting it directly from that person. Even after all the fees and everything involved with Airbnb, it was cheaper. So definitely look at Airbnb. Very quickly, location is very important, but it's not everything. And then what I mean by that is this: you don't need to be smack dab in the middle of that city, in the middle of the hottest area in town. You don't have to have a hotel there. You can be in the suburbs and take the train in. You can be a little bit farther away from the main point of interest. A lot of these cities are built with metros and trains, very cheap transportation or walking. A lot of the European cities and Asian places I visited were prime for walking. I love walking cities and getting to check everything out. You do not have to be in the main location. It's important for this reason, especially. Not only is the cost going to be more expensive there, but I'll give you an example. I was in Monastiraki in Athens, Greece, and I was right there in the corner of like the marketplace area, right near the Acropolis. And it was so fucking loud all night long with the noise, and I couldn't sleep. Same thing by mistake. I did this in Ho Chi Minh City. I was right there on a busy street and it was so loud, I got zero sleep. Sometimes it's really not worth it to stay right in the heart of the city. Now, if you're there for the nightlife and you don't care about sleeping, then more power to you. Have fun. But if you're like maybe a little bit older or you just want to relax, you don't need to be in the hot spots. More expensive and less sleep. All right. Pro tip number 6, super important here. Check your scams. Find out what scams are going on in the locations you're about to visit. To make this easy, I've broken it down into 2 types of scams. You have your universal scams that you'll find everywhere, all around the place, including Asia and Europe. And then you'll have your local scams. Local scams are things that you'll find, obviously, are unique to the places that you visit. So here's some advice. First, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, there's obviously things that you need to do, which is like take care of things like money. Watch out for pickpockets. Take your backpack and flip it around and wear it in the front. If somebody's bumping into you, chances are they're a pickpocket. It's just the way it is. Pretend that they are. And the first thing you do is reach for your wallet, reach for anything in your pocket, see if you're missing anything before that person gets out of your line of sight. Stuff like that is unfortunate. That's a universal thing that happens at every place with major tourist attractions. They're all over the places. Pickpockets. So a lot of times if you're going guide tours, they'll tell you right off the bat, this is a high pickpocket area. Sometimes you get one of those RFID money belts that protect around your waist. There's a fanny pack. There's all different kinds of things you can get to protect yourself against pickpockets. Those aren't really scams. They're more like warnings, but they're super important to do. And I'm not going to create a whole separate category for obvious things like this, but they're things you might not think about. So pay attention to that. So here are what I consider the 2 different types of scams. First is universal. The number one thing I ran into so many times is the free item scam. Unfortunately, this happens everywhere that I visited in Europe. The free item scam works like this. It's a person typically from Africa. They're going to try to engage a conversation with you by mentioning something like nice shoes or whatever. And then you'll be like, thank you. And once you say thank you, they've got you. They're going to start to talk to you more, ask where you're from. Like, oh, I bet you're from America. I bet you're from here. Da, da, da. They'll get in a conversation with you. And the next thing you know, it'll be a long conversation. Then they're going to try to put a free bracelet on your wrist, give you a free item. And you'll try to give it back. And they'll go, no, it's free. It's free. And you're like, I don't want this, but I don't want to be rude. So, okay, thank you. And they'll keep talking. And then eventually they're going to tell you some sob story or something along the lines to try to get you to give them money. And if you say no or just walk away, they're going to follow you and follow you and follow you. So even if you don't take the thing, they're going to follow you. So number 1, don't ever take the thing. Don't ever take the bracelet. Number 2, if somebody tries to talk to you that you don't know, just ignore them. Don't make eye contact. They're going to be persistent. Just don't fucking talk to them. Keep your eyes on the ground. Keep walking forward. Eventually they'll stop. Even if you turn and say no or say no, thank you or whatever, that is an opportunity for them to keep talking to you. So just ignore them, walk away. Don't get involved with that. Number 2, the fake tour guide. So if you're going to go on a tour, you got to make sure you get a certified tour guide. All these people are typically registered with the city, the state, the country, and they are knowledgeable about the places they're going to visit. They're not going to scam you or do anything, and they always have a license of some kind on them. If you're going up to somebody on the street, I would advise that try to book through reputable sites. Some of these people will act like tour guides and say they'll be your tour guides. Number 1, they're not tour guides in a lot of cases. There are people that are going to try to scam you by getting extra money off you, taking you to the wrong location. They'll say oftentimes this place is closed, and they'll take you somewhere else. And the place they're going to take you, they're getting a kickback from the place. They're going to stop along the way, take you to various other places. You might not even get to where you want to go. So stay away from fake tour guides that are not certified through the state, city, or country. make sure you book ahead of time. Do not get a random tour guide. Fake watches and jewelry. This scam is everywhere. Do I really got to tell you, don't buy a fucking Rolex for some guy on the street? But in a lot of these countries I visited, even in Asia, there'll be an Indian guy and he'll be wearing a suit or something like that, and he's going to try to sell you fake items. I think there might have been some women trying to do this too, but just don't be an idiot. You're not buying a fucking Rolex off the street, no matter how cheap it is. Don't do it. It's not real. The jewelry they're selling you is fake. Nothing they're going to give you is worth anything. That no matter how cheap it is, just don't do it. It's simple. The broken meter scam. You're going to go to a cab and you're going to get in and you're going to drive and their meter's not going to work. They're going to charge you some outrageous amount of money to take you where you're supposed to go. It's an easy one to avoid, but you're not paying attention and you're going to get sucked into it. So the first thing you do is, before you get in that cab, negotiate ahead of time. Find out how much it's going to cost to get to the destination. If they have a meter and you want to go by that, fine, just make sure it's working, but sometimes they can rig it. I've never been a place where you haven't been able to negotiate ahead of time the cost to go from point A to point B. All these countries are very good about that. Tuk-tuks and cabs, the exact same thing. The pro tip that goes along with this, go to Uber, or go to, if you're in another location like Asia, go to Grab, download it and take that with you, because you can be rest assured if you get a cab or tuk-tuk off of one of them, it's going to be legit. The price is set ahead of time. You can also see what the current pricing is. Even if you don't want to do that, you can at least see what the pricing is versus what the guy's about to charge you, and find out how out of whack it is before you get into the cab. Not everyone, but a lot of the tuk-tuk and cab drivers will rip you off if given the opportunity. And a lot of times they will take you to various locations because they get a kickback taking you to certain places. So be careful about that. Be very specific. All right, the next one is super dangerous. This happened to me on 10 different occasions when I was in Europe alone. It's called the baby toss. You're going to be standing there and someone's going to ask you something like to take a picture or something, and their kind of job is going to be to distract you. The next thing you know, someone's going to throw a baby at you. When they do this, your instinct is going to be to catch it, and they're going to steal your shit. Don't do that. If somebody throws a baby at you, fucking hit it out of the way, throw it to the ground, or just flat out avoid it. Duck, move, get out of the way, and hold on to your goods. That baby will fall to the ground, but you get to keep your shit, which is super important. Don't fall for the scam. And if you want to be extra careful, if there's any baby anywhere near you, just fucking push it out of the way, throw it to the ground, grab it out of the mom's hands and throw it into like a ditch. Just get it the fuck out of your way. Make sure there's no babies around you. The baby scam happens all the time. It took me 10 times before I really learned this and just started batting babies out of the way left and right. Don't let anybody throw a baby at you ever. Just trust me on this. Don't let it happen to you. All right. Lastly, we're going to go into local scams. Now, local scams are exactly that. They happen in very specific locations. I'm not going to go too much into this, but definitely do your research. I'll give you a really quick one. It happened to me in Vietnam. There's a lot of shoe shine people in Saigon for some reason, and they're just hanging around all over by the hotels, and they will try to do shoe repair or shoe shine. And they will go up to you and they'll say to you, your shoe is broken. And they'll say, no, see right here. This is broken. I'll fix it for you. Your shoe's not broken. They are literally making shit up to try to get money. In fact, I was once wearing Nike slide-ons, and some guy tried to do that to me with my slide-ons, saying they're broken and that he was going to fix them. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No. Yeah, just keep walking. So again, that's just a quick example. Number 2 local scam that I'll talk about is the luggage haulers. When I got to Morocco, you'll notice that if you're staying in the Medinas, well, you can't go into the Medinas with the cabs in a lot of times. So you'll have to drag your luggage into the Medina areas and you go up and down the roads. So at these locations are people with luggage carts, and they will try to get your luggage onto the cart and move it for you. The biggest mistake you can make is letting them do it, or letting them do it without negotiating first. So Very quick story. We got to Marrakesh and it was a fucking awful experience. Right off the bat, we couldn't find our hotel. We went back and found a cop, and she had no idea what we were talking about, but she pointed to some of the luggage haulers, indicating that they knew where it was. So we went up to them and we're like, okay. And they took our stuff, and we did not negotiate ahead of time because I was just so tired and thrown off. We went around the corner right where we just missed one turn. It was so damn close to that location, and the guy demanded 50 euros when we got there, which if you don't know is $50 US. By the way, the money there is like fucking garbage money. Like, it's so cheap. So $50 is like $300, $400 for them. It was crazy, and we got into a huge fight about it. I refused to pay it. I was going to give him like the local money, 20 money, which is like $2, and he got offended, and it was like this whole thing. So just avoid it altogether. Just haul your luggage, which goes back to tip number 1, which you'll find out later on. But be super careful with that. If you're gonna use the luggage haulers, negotiate ahead of time, find a price that works for you, but don't offer them a lot of money. It does not take a lot to move. There's places that are not very far in a lot of cases, or just do it on your own. Every place is going to have its own local scams. If you do your research ahead of time, you'll find out what they are, and just be super careful about them. The next tip is a good tip for frequent travelers. Tip number 5, lounge access. I've talked about in some of my other videos, what is lounge access? Every airport around the world has a lounge. Lounges are places that are set aside away from the common people and the riffraff that are waiting by the gates. It's like this beautiful oasis. Lounges are different everywhere, honestly, and some of them are not great. But even the worst lounges in the world are better than sitting next to the gate. Lounges typically have a bunch of common things like free food, free drinks, free alcohol, comfortable seating, and charging spots, and bathrooms. Now, there can be other things like showers for travelers and massages. It just depends on where you're staying and where the lounge is. I do have a couple of lounge videos up right now. They do range from mediocre to amazing. They really, really do. It just depends. I've been in some luxury ones and I've been in some bad ones, but again, lounges are awesome. All right, so how do you get access to the lounge? First of all, you can just go and find out where the lounge is. Lounges, like I said, are in every airport around the world. You're going to find out where they are, go up to them, and you can pay to get in a lot of them. Prices range depending on a lot of these places from, I don't know, $30 on up. Some of them are very expensive. If you're only going to be there for a little bit of time, in most cases, it's not worth it. But if you're there for a few hours, it can definitely be worth it. If you're going to pay, though, and it seems to be a bit pricey, ask if you can go in and check it out before you pay. Number 2 is what I do. It is credit cards for travel people offer you, whether it's Capital One, Venture X, Chase Sapphire, or American Express, I think Platinum. They will give you lounge access as part of your yearly fees. Yearly fees for these things can be kind of expensive, but one of the nice features is lounge access. I personally do Capital One Venture X. It is kind of a steep cost every year. It's $395. However, with that comes a bunch of perks, including a $300 travel credit that I can use when I'm on Capital One, their website for travel. You also get free either global entry or you get free TSA Fast Pass, the check there. And you also get Priority Pass. Now, Priority Pass is lounge access. And lounge access with Priority Pass gets you into over 1,500 lounges around the world. And it is awesome. Superb. Highly recommend it. I believe you can also get Priority Pass without having credit card access. You could probably sign up for it and pay. But if you're going to do that, definitely look into something like Capital One X and check that out. Not every lounge will take Priority Pass, because some of these lounges are specifically for different services. But in most locations around the world in the airport, there should be maybe at least one of the lounges with Priority Pass access. When I was in Thailand, in Bangkok, there were like 6 or 7 or 8 lounges, and one of them, yes, was Priority Pass. Same thing with Vietnam. I think there was 3 or 4 lounges, and one of them specifically was Priority Pass. So highly recommend you look into it. It is super worth it. Trust me, if you travel, you're going to want to do this lounge access. Pro tip number 4, learn some of the language of the country you're going to visit. You don't have to learn the entire thing, obviously. We're not asking that, but maybe you learn stuff like hello, goodbye, thank you, water, bathroom, simple things like that. Think about it like this. You have how long between the time you book and the time you leave. Learn it like a word a day or a couple words a day or just whatever, a word a week, whatever. By the time between then and the time you go, you can learn like 5 words. It's not that hard. It's actually kind of a cool thing to do because it shows you care, the country that you visit, the people will appreciate it. It'll show that, yes, they might know English, but you're putting an effort in too. It's just a nice little thing. It's a quick tip. The more you learn, the better. I did learn some Vietnamese before I left, and now I think if you follow me at all on Facebook, whatever, I'm learning Khmer or Cambodian, and I now know about 60 words, and I can string together sentences, and I freaking love it. I didn't think I would, but I really do enjoy it. Nhom Joljiet Rien Khmer. I like to study Cambodian. So yeah, just think about it. It's definitely gonna be worth it. All right, we're getting there, man. Pro tip number 3, solo travelers tip. All right, this one goes out to all the solo travelers, and I have some experience with this. I've done both traveling with people and without. They both have their benefits. It's very nice to not have to worry about another person when you're traveling. Like, are they going to make you late? Dealing with their luggage. What if they get sick? What if their tastes are different than yours? What if they don't want to visit this place and you don't want to go to that place? So that stuff it's all legitimate and actually can be very good sometimes to travel alone, but it does and can get lonely. As I mentioned in my other tips, get your guide and Viator are 2 great places to go for tours. Well, why do I mention that again now? Because those tours are group tours, and you can get the experience of hanging out and meeting other people from other countries, which is super cool and fun to do for limited amounts of times while you're there. Get together in a larger group, you go to food tours, or you go and visit this place or that place, and you get the experience of being with other people. I kind of am a little bit social, so typically when I go on these places, I will make friends and meet people. I have yet to have not done it. Most of these people that I've encountered are super fun and outgoing, and they're there to experience the place. And if you have any bit of outgoingness to you, it's easy to meet people, make friends, and you can actually kind of exchange information and keep in touch with them for future friend contacts on Facebook and stuff like that. So it can be kind of fun. So yeah, that's one way to navigate it. Navigation number 2 here is, well, you can meet people online before you leave. You can go to places like Facebook and Reddit and join the local communities for the country or place you're going to visit. There is groups for Thailand, for Vietnam, for Cambodia, for every country you're going to visit, and probably even more specific than that, definitely on Reddit and most likely on Facebook. And there's also travel places too, travel sites too on these places you can go to. You're going to start talking to these people. They'll give you tips, tricks, advice, and stuff like that. But if you meet somebody from a local place, you get to know them over the course of the months you're waiting between the time you book to the time you leave. You might meet somebody there and you kind of can hang out while you're there. So that's a fun way to do it. And also, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, there are dating sites where you can go, and if you're interested in meeting somebody from that place, you can go and meet them for dating. But you can also go and make friends on these sites too. And you can prearrange that ahead of time and meet them when you're there. So the one key thing about that is, like, for example, Tinder has that option, and I think Bumble might have the option. So Bumble has the friend option, but I think they might have another option too. Tinder is the one with the location that you can change you have to pay for the service, but you can change your location to where you're going to go, and you can meet friends up there. And there's other places like Thai Friendly and stuff like that. You can meet people before you leave if you're going to Asian countries there as well. So again, you can travel by yourself and still not feel lonely if you make these arrangements ahead of time. All right, we're getting close. We're on number 2, 1 away. What is Drake's top 1 going to be? You're going to have to stick around and find out. But right now we are on number 2, which is what? That's right, folks. Golden rule, don't be a Don't be a don't be that person. Don't be the guy that people talk about after you leave and they're like, God, that guy was such a fucking what was his deal? Foreigners have a lot of times a bad reputation when they go to countries. They act more superior, they act better than everyone else, they demand things, they look down on the locals. Don't be that person. You don't want to leave and have them go, wow, those people from enter your country's name here are real dickholes. You don't want that to happen. Remember, it'll help you, it'll help me, because next time I go over, they might have a bad taste in their mouth and they think, oh shit, that guy from America was a real bet you this guy might be too. So just don't be the, I'm sorry, what? We just talked about interrupting. I can't say the word. What the fuck? Why can't I say? They say it all the time in Australia. It's like a term of endearment there. Our sponsors? Fuck it, they're not even real what? If I can't use the word, then what can I say? Can I use the word, what about? Can I say? Why? They say it in the Avengers. No, they do. Right when Loki is going up at the end. Fuck, fine. Okay, what about waffle? Can I say waffle? I mean, that's a fun one. Everyone loves waffle. No? Fuck. Okay, so give me a word I can use, please. What the fuck is a cocksocket? Oh, fine. Okay, fine. All right, I'm not going to do this whole thing again, guys. Just replace the word with the word cocksocket. Apparently, there's no one ever in the history of ever that will be offended by the word cocksocket. So, whatever. Guys, just be fucking normal people and don't be dicks. How about that? Okay? All right, we got through all that. Are you ready for the number one? It's coming up right now. Yay! Guys, you did it. You made it. I'm so proud of you. We're here together at the end. The number one travel tip of all time. It has to be important. I mean, not only did I go from 10 backwards, which indicates a super important number one. I mean, if I started off with number one, that's nothing. But the number one put at the end means this guy's got to be super important. So what else could it be but something that's going to be life-shattering? Well, I'm sorry. It's not going to be life-shattering, but it is the number one tip for a reason. Pack light. You read it, pack light. And I know this sounds like a minor thing, but trust me when I say this, I've gone on many vacations, and the number one mistake I make every single time like a moron, because I didn't seem to learn until my last one, is pack light. Why is this? Because you do not want to be dragging extra luggage around with you on your vacation. Again, sounds simple, but you know if you travel, when you go to pack, you end up putting so much shit in there. You have to like cram it shut, and then you got another suitcase and a backpack. You don't need all that. So the key here is this. You're gonna wanna pack maybe 3 or 4 outfits that are interchangeable total. What does that mean for people that are going on 3 weeks or 4 weeks? It means the same, 3 to 4 outfits total. Just make sure they're interchangeable. That's all you need. Just remember, you're going on vacation to relax. The last thing you want to do is worry about this, how do I look, and this, and this. And then maybe so if you're bringing 3 outfits, bring 5 or 6 pairs of underwear, 5 or 6 socks, and that's all you're going to need. Remember, you're also bringing something with you. The clothes you wear on your flight count as an extra pair. So that's a bonus one I'll give you. Why do you only need that much? Because you're going to go to a place with a washer and dryer or washing facilities on the site. It's going to change your life if you haven't done this before, and it's super important. You do not want to be lugging around all that luggage with you. You just don't. I did it in Morocco, and it was a mistake. I brought my suitcase, my backpack, and an extra bag. I was like, oh, I'm going to bring a lot of souvenirs home and stuff. Horrible mistake. You don't want to be doing it when you're rushing around, trying to get into cabs, this, that, and the other thing. Not only that, but in a lot of cases, there's going to be extra fee for it, especially if you're traveling between countries on those smaller airlines. That's an extra charge you can avoid. So there's 1,000 reasons why not, and you're going to really be grateful for it. The bottom, you're not going to need all those extra outfits. You're going to be packing your shit, and you're going to be like, oh, all this extra clothes, all these extra clothes. And you're going to be like, I don't need all this stuff, but just in case, you don't. You're never going to use all that stuff. When's the last time you brought a top hat and a vest and a cane and actually fucking needed it, but for some reason you think, well, I might be at the opera in England, or I might meet the Queen. You never fucking know, and I gotta have my top hat. You're not gonna meet the Queen, so just fucking, just put it aside. there are a lot of videos out there on different channels that will go into packing, and it sounds silly, but it's going to be worth checking some of them out. It will save you time in the long run, but I'll give you a little bit of advice based on my experience. First of all, make a list. As soon as you create your trip and your agenda, make a list of everything you need. Put down stuff that you might forget, like chargers and batteries, and the different plug outlet changers for every single country. You're going to need those. And then start working on your clothes. Make a list. About a month in, I take my suitcase and I lay it out somewhere, and I just start putting that stuff in little by little. And then I kind of go from there. And then by the time I get to a weekend, to a couple of days in, I've checked off a lot of the stuff except for the last minute stuff. And then I'm good to go, and I don't have to worry about forgetting stuff. So just keep all that in mind. Check out our other channels on their advice, but you'll find your own method, and eventually you'll get really good at it. There's even special luggage out there you can buy with special compartments. It's up to you on how far you want to take it. Here's a super tip for you that you guys really need to pay attention to. You might pack your suitcase to exactly 50 pounds, and you are usually allowed to have up to 20 pounds on a carry-on. So for example, my backpack might be 20 pounds and my luggage might be 50 pounds. Well, that's fine in America. However, you get to other countries, if you're taking those inter-country flights, the weight requirements and restrictions may be different. You're gonna have to translate from kilograms to American units, freedom units, as I like to call them. But once you do that, make sure you're under. There could be a difference, and trust me, you don't want to get fucked at the last minute and you have to remove 5 pounds worth of stuff. Where the fuck are you gonna put it? You don't want to throw stuff out, etc. So pay close attention to that. Every airline that you book, check out their weight limits and requirements. Sounds basic, but it's easy to forget to do something like that. Thanks for checking my video out. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there was some informative stuff, things that you are going to be able to use in your travels. As always, I have been Drake. I am that big bearded American tourist. Please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out a lot. And as they say in Cambodia, Lir Hai. Goodbye for now.